Sunday night under the pale moonlight, Vinny and Phil bring the shadows to life. Tales of the ghostly whispers in the night, Bigfoot and aliens ready for the strife. The darkness thickens, the air is cold, haunting stories waiting to unfold. Supernatural Sundays, the veil is thin. Join us in the chaos, let the night begin. With every whisper and each chilling tale, dare to believe where shadows prevail. Heavy beats echo through the haunted trees. Demons lurk as the chill hits with ease. Podcasts rolling with guests to amaze. Cryptids and spirits were lost in the haze. Northmen in the foliage, watch your back. Dogmen prowling, ready to attack. Supernatural Sundays, the veil is thin. Join us in the chaos, let the night begin. With every whisper and each chilling tale, dare to believe where shadows prevail. Moving in the foliage, watch your back. Through the prowling, ready to attack. Supernatural Sundays, the veil is thin. Join us in the chaos, let the night begin. With every whisper and each chilling tale, dare to believe where shadows prevail. So tune in next week, fear in your soul. Darkness awaits, let the stories unfold.
Welcome to Supernatural Sundays. Glad everybody could make it this week. We got a special guest, Alfred Santariga. You go by Al or Alfred or Big Al? Or...
I go by Al. Everybody calls me Al, Phil. Everybody calls me Al.
They call me Phil Billy, so.
Phil Billy, okay.
Yeah, I answer just about anything. Glad to have you on this week. Al comes to us from upstate New York, up in the Hudson Valley area, and he's been in the paranormal field probably quite a bit longer than I have. founded a few different groups with you have the Bigfoot group, you've got the UFO group. You want to tell us just a little bit about yourself? Then we're going to talk about some videos.
Yeah, no, the paranormal's been normal in my family my whole life. I have a grandmother who was a white witch, an aunt who was a white witch, a cousin who was a black witch. My mother got premonitions. She had psychic abilities. My brother Frank was one of the first parapsychologists in the United States. And, like I said, the paranormal it's just been normal in my family, So it was just natural for me to go down this road.
Awesome. Did Brother Frank work with the Warrens or anything? Since he was early in the field, or?
Yeah, he actually worked with let me get this right. Hans Holzer's right hand man. That was his mentor, and they worked with Hans Holzer's psychic Ethel, I believe, on a bunch of investigations. Yeah, and I met Alexandra Holzer about maybe 10 years back now, and at a paranormal conference, and we just hit it off, and we became really good friends. And at the end of the night, she autographed one of her father's books for me, which is out of print. And I was like, no, I'm not worthy of this book, And she's like, no, Al, you are worthy. I want you to have it. And I was like, thank you very much. So I'm very close with her. I've done a bunch of investigations with her. She's amazing when you're out in the field with her. So so Hans Holzer was my brother's intro into it. He met Ed Warren a couple of times at a local pizzeria when he lived in Connecticut, and he talked to him about being. My brother was going to go into being a demonologist, and Ed told him not to do it. He said it'll take years off your life, And we went up and I met the Warrens a couple of times because my brother lived in Connecticut. I was living in his house with him. I had the attic apartment, and we went up to a couple of their presentations at the local schools, and he introduced you to them, and I got to talk to them, and they were very, very nice people. And years later, I've met John Zaffis, and I've worked with John on a couple of investigations as well, and John's a sweetheart too. And they're good people all around, absolutely.
My dad was in the Navy. We lived up in Groton, Connecticut. And
okay.
We would go around in different places, and I think he took us by that Amityville house one time. We did a day trip and drove up there, and that was pretty cool. And there was another house in Rhode Island we went where you could supposedly see like a lantern, like a ghost light going up these stairs. We would go by there all, once a month or so and sit out there in our car and wait, see if we could see the light. That was like our entertainment. Go get some fish and chips and sit there.
Yeah, we went to, when my brother was living in Long Island, when he first got married, he lived in Long Island. And I was going out to visit him on the weekends. And we were going to the Amityville house. And I was going to be his photographer because I went to school for photography in Manhattan. I went to the Center for Media Arts in Manhattan and graduated with an associate's in photography. And but at the time I was still in high school, but I was a shutterbug my whole life, and I was taking photography in high school. So I went out to Long Island, and him and a couple of my brother worked for IBM. He was a computer guy, and we went out to the Amityville house before anybody had moved back in. It was still vacant. There was nobody in it. And as we were going down the driveway, it's a long driveway to get to the actual house. And as soon as we pulled off the main road into the driveway, I got a feeling of dread. And I was like, let's not do this. Turn around, let's go back, And my brother's like, you're crazy. We're here now. We're not going to turn around now. And I seen like shadows running from tree to tree. And when they got out of the car, when they got to the front of the house and they got out, I wouldn't get out of the car. I said, yeah, no, I'm not. I said, here's my cameras. You be the photographer tonight. I got a bad vibe about this and I don't want nothing to do with it. And, you know, they couldn't get into the house, but they were around the property and stuff. And they went and they took a lot of photos and everything. They were out there like a couple hours investigating, you know, trying to see if there were any doors open in the house that they could get into, but everything was boarded up nice and tight. And they went down to the boathouse and stuff. And I was like, no. When they got back in the car, I was still in the back of the station wagon. I was like, let's get the hell out of here. Get me home. I just had such a bad feel. Nothing happened to any of those guys that were there, but I just felt like if I would have got out of that car, I don't know what would have happened. Because even when I was sitting in the car, waiting for them to come out, I was seeing shadow figures running from tree to tree, you know? And I was like, yeah, I'm not getting out of this car.
Better off listening to your gut in that situation.
Oh, absolutely. I always listen to my gut 99.9% of the time. I listen to my gut. Once in a while, I'll roll the dice, but I wasn't rolling the dice there, you know. Absolutely not. Yeah, no, not at 16 or however old. Yeah, I was only like about 16 at the time. I was like, yeah, no, I wasn't ready. I wasn't as brave as I am now, you know.
Yeah.
But it was, you know, like again, when you get a gut feeling, you get a feeling of dread. There's a reason for it. You know, you really have to respect those feelings when you get them. You know, and you say you're not sensitive, but we're all sensitive to a certain extent. And I'm sure you've been to locations where you got that feeling of dread come over you as well. You know, or no?
I've been with people and they were feeling dread, and I was like, it just feels kind of stuffy in here to me. They need to open a window or something. That's kind of how I feel about it. And I've been to some really messed up locations, and I've had guys grab me and stuff, and I just kind of look at them, and they're like, he didn't jump or flinch or nothing, but I'm out on a location, I'm usually focused, you know, but it's like at home, somebody can yell at me coming out of the bathroom, and I'll scream like a girl, I'll throw everything in the air.
That's funny. No, I mean, because we're all sensitive to a certain extent. So I mean, yeah, maybe you were just so locked in, so focused on what you were doing. But yeah, I mean, I've had a lot of psychics tell me that I have psychic ability. I know my mother was psychic and everything, but I can't do like I have a team psychic from Arkansas, and before I even talk to her about doing where we're going or what we're doing, she starts to get images and she'll call me and she'll say, okay, what are you guys up to? Where are you going? What are you doing? Blah, 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 blah. Because we don't like to tell her what we're doing until we get to the location, and then we'll have her read it. But she usually calls me before we even leave to go any place. And but she can do amazing stuff. And to me, it's got to come to me. You know what I mean? Like, I was out on the location with Zaffis one night, and we were down in the basement, and a little voice in my head said, touch the stone wall. And I touched this stone wall, and then the voice said, okay, touch this wooden door. And the wooden door was like 6 inches thick. It looked like a castle door, you know? And I touched both of those, and in my mind's eyes, I got the image of the Underground Railroad, you know? And I turned to John, and I was like, do you know if this house was used for the Underground Railroad? And he was like, no, but the woman who was with him was a historian, and she said, yes, why did you say that? You know, this house was used. I said, because I just had that image when I touched the wall and I touched the door, you know. They call that what the stone tape image, you know what I mean? When you touch the stones.
Yeah.
And but like I've been on locations where I'll smell a certain scent. Sometimes it's a rose. Sometimes it's like lemon pledge, you know what I mean? I'll just smell something, or I'll feel something, or I'll hear something, or something will touch me. So I have these abilities, but they have to come to me. I just can't go to a location and read a location. That's just not how it works with me, you know. And I don't look to expand upon any of uh, my gifts, because I know what it is to live like that and have stuff come in all the time and have to put up walls and all kinds of stuff. And you know what I mean? Just, I'd rather it come to me when it comes to me, and then just be regular. Leave me alone the rest of the time, you know?
Definitely experienced the smells. Like,
Okay.
that's one thing. I mean, if that's a gift, I got that gift because like we were at Governor Trousdale's house down in Gallatin, Tennessee, and we were in like a parlor room, and there was a table in the middle with some fake flowers, and a lady around the corner said she started smelling perfume like flowers. We're like, okay, and didn't think anything of it. And then another lady smelled it, and then finally I smelled it, and I was like, that does smell kind of like, like a flowery perfume. And then the other lady on the other corner of the room smelled it. It's like somebody was walking through there with perfume on and went in a circle around that table. The only thing I could find, and there was one of those little reed diffuser scent things, and it was like oil, but it was cinnamon. I'm like, nope, that's not it. It came and went. And then I've been in an old hospital, and the best way I could explain it is somebody had defecated in their diaper or whatever and was walking through there. It smelled like an adult had went to the bathroom and was walking through there, and it came up behind me, and I smelled it, and the lady next to me smelled it, and then across from me there was like 20 people in this old waiting room, and then none of those people smelled it. And then down toward the end of the hallway there was another guy on our side. He smelled it. It was like somebody was walking through there with a shitty diaper, basically.
Yeah, no, I mean, and that, believe it or not, is one of the clairs. You know what I mean? Smelling and hearing the voices in your head, or just seeing images in your mind's eye. I mean, and touch. For me, I would have to touch stuff. Like, I don't know why my brain will say, okay, now touch this, and then I touch that, and I may feel like a vibration coming out of it, and then my brain will say, right, now touch something else, you know, and then I'll get like an image, you know. It's like it's weird. I mean, I do it all the time. We've investigated all kinds of locations, and I've been touched by things. I've been pulled and yanked. I've actually had a couple of times where I've had an attachment onto me, you know, at a location, but when I left the location, the attachment detached. Again, it wasn't anything dark or negative, because I go above and beyond protection wise, you know, I really do.
I do too, and I'm like, well, this seems weird carrying these rocks in my pockets and everything, and doing all these prayers, but we talking to something I can't see, but we go ahead and do it. But have you ever been stink bombed? I'd say probably the worst one I had for smells. I was in an attic in this old house over by London, Kentucky, and the best way I could describe it is like a little kid or somebody ran up and sprayed a can of fart spray on you, and then took off running. Like, it was right next to me. It was like super intense. All of a sudden, the lady next to me is like, "Oh my God!" I'm like, "That isn't me." She goes, "I know it ain't you. I've been rocking around here with you for an hour," and then it just left. So I always tell everybody when they go to that place, watch out for the mad gas. Or, I mean, it was like that's the best way I could describe it. Somebody came up, sprayed some of that stinky stuff, and took off, because it didn't even smell like the other stuff. Smelled like human feces. I've had tobacco smell. I've had flowers, but this smelled like almost artificial. The way it smelled like something you would buy to spray on your boots when you go hunting or something.
I've smelled the lemon. I call it lemon pledge, but I smelled the lemon. I smelled the rose petals. Like, I've smelled lavender. I've smelled what's the other thing I smell? Oh, the cherry tobacco. I got a pipe. You know what I mean?
This was like a sulfur smell almost.
Yeah, I smelled sulfur as well. Yeah, I smelled sulfur. And one time we were out on a Bigfoot expedition, and we were in between two Bigfoots. One was down in a holler, and one was on the ridge above us to our west. And I don't know what the one did down in the holler, but what it did, it must have opened up a stink gland or something, because the smell came up out of the holler that was so ripe. It was so bad. It smelled like rotten eggs. I mean, woo, it was bad, you know. And I was like, yeah, you know, because we were in between them and they weren't happy. But
We
yeah,
were up
so
at
I smelled.
Mammoth. I was gonna say we were up at Mammoth Cave,
Okay.
and we smelled. It was all of a sudden like this dead animal smell, and we found a footprint. I think I'd sent you a picture of it, and the pictures don't really do it justice. I tried to
Right.
3D. I tried to do a lidar 3D map of it, and then after I got home, I got to thinking about it. I'm like, I'm gonna go back and cast it. So I went and got all the plaster, and I'm walking around with 6 pounds of plaster and 2 gallons of water in a bucket. I go out there and I'm looking for the spot. It was like I was out there for 2 hours and I found where I thought the spot was, and there was a stick stuck in the ground, like somebody had stuck a stick in the ground there on purpose, and like
Yeah.
the ground was all messed up. So I'm like, okay, did it come back and cover its tracks, or am I just in the wrong spot, or
Yeah.
so
Yeah, no, the LiDAR's good. There's no doubt about it. LiDAR is a great tool to have when you're swatching. This way you don't have to carry all the plaster and everything. But yeah, no, I mean, it's I've so that's. But believe it or not, when you have those smells, that is an ability, you know, a psychic ability to smell those things. Because not everybody smells those smells, you know. Or I don't know if you ever had anything touch you or yank on your shirt or
yeah,
something like
yeah.
that. Yeah, you will when you go to Gettysburg. You're
That's
gonna
what
get a
they
lot of
told me.
yeah,
I talked
yes,
to a lady today who'd been investigating Gettysburg, and she told me that they'll mess with people's hair, they'll tug on your shirt, they'll say your name,
yeah.
and I was like, okay, that sounds pretty cool.
Yeah, I got my bottom of my shirt tugged. Yep, absolutely. And then when the tour guide told me what happened around the corner on that floor, it just happened to be right where I was standing, and I was like, okay, so I guess you know, they can see me or whatever, you know. So they tugged on my shirt, but so what kind of evidence do you have from your last investigation?
Well,
You said
I
you
got a
wanted to
couple.
show me some stuff.
Yeah, I got a couple things here, and I got some videos of the week we can go through too.
Okay. Yeah, sure. Absolutely.
I'll what I've got are a couple SLS videos, and I've cut them down for my SLS. I don't know what we were picking up, but I try to rule out all the false positives. Sometimes I'll just set it on a tripod. Then if I see something moving and running by, I know it's not me moving around or picking up on a lamp or a table or something like that. But I can show you a couple. This is from the Roz Opera House in Cynthiana, Kentucky, and this is up on I think it's on the one. The first one I think is on the balcony, and then the other, I think I've got 4 or 5 of them here, but we don't have to look at all of them. But it's on the third floor lounge. They have like comedy shows and stuff up there. It's still an active theater. So down on the bottom level, they play actual movies, and you can watch them up on the balcony or the bottom. And then they also have live shows, their performances on stage, and then up behind the balcony, there's a whole big lounge area where that's where we the freakiest thing that happened there that I still got to go through the footage. It sounded to me like a cat meowing, just like
Okay.
about 3 in the morning. Just sounded like this cat meowing, and then the other ladies with me told me they thought it was a baby crying. And then the bathrooms, I wish theaters still had these. They call them crying rooms. So if you're watching a movie and your baby's crying and being fussy, the ladies could go into the women's bathroom and they have like a little closet that you go in and it's soundproof. And you take your baby in there, and then there's a window. So you can sit in there with your crying baby and still watch the movie and
Oh,
not
that's very
disturb
cool.
everybody.
Yeah,
So
yeah, that's pretty wild.
I'll throw this up here and see what you think.
Seat
Did
next
you
to
hold that
him.
recorder on there? Can you see it, Cindy?
Yeah.
Let me try to go closer. What are you doing? Are you playing cards?
Oh, come back.
Can you come back, buddy? That was bizarre.
We loved watching you.
There's Jeffinator.
You were trying to entertain us.
Look, you can even see Jeff's nose and everything. That's badass.
I know.
There's something trying to manifest over in that corner. See the energy? See how it's like pulsating? The whole.
Yeah.
That's the lasers picking up some like energy. There's Jeff. And who's that? Gary? Oh, that's dude. Okay. And then,
There he was again.
no, I think that was.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Well, this was right here on that chair with nobody in it, though.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Come on back. You ain't gotta be scared. Come on over here. You wanna come play cards with us? 5-card stud. Deuces are wild.
So
I
was
I
that
had to
thing?
record that on my phone because my record feature quit working on my tablet. So I'm gonna have to, and now I can't get on the Wi-Fi to reprogram it. So
Was that thing sitting down in a chair?
yeah, and it looked like he was playing cards or something.
Yeah, it looked like he was doing something. Absolutely. It looked like he was sitting down to me. Yeah, that's why I
Yeah.
asked. Yeah,
I got a couple more here. Check them out. See what you think.
sure.
Seat next
Did you
to
hold that
him.
recorder on there? Can you see it, Cindy?
Yeah.
Let me try to go closer. What are you doing? Are you playing cards?
Oh, come back.
Can you come back, buddy? That was bizarre.
We loved watching you.
There's Jeffinator. That was the same one, sorry.
Yeah, kind of looked familiar. Yeah.
Well, come on back. You ain't gotta be scared. Are you playing? I seen you. Little friend.
Can you come over here by me? You can just sit by me.
I see you. He was right here. That same little fella that was climbing around earlier.
That was interesting. Yeah, no, I mean, I don't know what the hell that thing was doing.
I got one more here. I think it's a different one, but I have a hard time trying to see my screen and then see where I'm going and not trip over stuff in the dark.
Yeah. Well, when you're doing multiple things, it could be dangerous, especially in the dark.
That's why I try not to.
Now,
move
let
much.
me ask you a question. In the direction you were holding the SLS camera, were there any of your members on the other side of that camera?
No,
Like,
that's one thing I try to rule out because if they're right next to it, it'll kind of. I've seen it feed off of them.
Okay.
So I'm constantly trying to debunk. So I was like, okay, there's Gary, there's Cindy, there's this other guy that came from another team. That's why I said dude, because I didn't know his name. I was like, dude. But if it's a person, I've noticed they'll be solid. And then the stick figure will be on them and they'll be solid. And I've seen some stick figures kind of attached to them and it'll still be kind of feeding off of them. But when it's off by itself, away from the person, and it's blink, sometimes they blink off and on and there's no solid person there. And then they do weird stretch out different shapes and stuff and fly around. And that's when I'm like, okay, it's not picking up on a person. But I have had them pick up on lamps, vacuum cleaners.
Yeah, you got to set the sensitivity really low because they'll pick up anything. Yeah.
Yeah. I had one sitting on a toilet and had a couple of ladies look at it. They said, that's just picking up the toilet. I said, well, I don't know. I've never had one pick up anything on a toilet. So now everywhere I go, if I see a toilet, I hit it with the SLS, and I have not had one do it since. I've probably looked at 25 toilets since then and not had one on a toilet, sitting on a toilet, like messing around like this one was. So I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
it was.
As long as it's not picking up your reflection off of
a mirror or window
or off the toilet itself, because
yeah,
that the toilets can be shiny and they can pick up. You can have your reflection in them, and the SLS will pick that up. But I mean, if it's sitting down, then it's not you.
it was sitting down.
Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah.
I got one more here to check
Yeah.
out. What are you doing up there? Where'd you go, buddy? Oh, as soon as I start recording. It jumped over the railing. Over here.
That looks small.
Yeah, somebody's got a light on me. Oh, sorry. Yeah, it was small and it jumped over the railing. Can you come back? Are you playing on that equipment?
Oh, about
Hey, little.
5 seconds ago, I got real dizzy.
Yeah, I seen it and it jumped over the railing. I'll try to record it now. It's took off. Whatever it was that running from me, as soon as I try to record. Come on, little buddy. I'm your friend. You don't have to run off. You playing hide and seek with me? You gonna come back out?
Yeah, I didn't even see that on that one.
Yeah, I just seen it at the beginning. I could roll it back again if you want to see the very beginning of it.
Yeah, I didn't see it.
What are you doing up there? Where'd you go, buddy? Oh,
Yeah, it's gone.
it's fast. Let me
Yeah,
throw it up
it
one
is.
more time. You gotta be watching fast. What are you doing up there? Where'd you go, buddy? Oh, as soon as I start recording.
It was in the
Should've made
left-hand
us-
corner.
I should have made a still of it or something.
Yeah. Yeah, it was quick. That one was quick. Yeah. I think I only got one really good SLS stick figure. We were doing a theater up here in Poughkeepsie, Bartervon Theater. It's been here since like the late 1800s and stuff. And two of the people that I were with was on stage clowning around like they were singing and dancing. And one of their friends, who was a guitar player, had just passed, and he was like the house guitar player for the theater. And while they were clowning around, singing and dancing on stage, I got a guy playing guitar in between them. And I was like, I think your buddy's here for, with you guys, And they're like, what are you talking about? And I showed them the video, and they just freaked out. They started crying because they couldn't believe they were clowning around, joking around, singing and dancing. And a guitar plays your shirt up at nowhere, and you seen the guitar and everything. And this guy was just wailing away.
It's probably their buddy.
Yeah, it was definitely their buddy. Yeah.
I went to my high school in Central Illinois, and they're getting ready to demolish the high school. Like they were going to tear it down, and I think it's just a parking lot now or something. But they were going to build a new school or something there. But I think they were making room for parking, whatever. But I was one of the last groups that got to go through the school where I went to high school, and we got down by the women's locker room and opened up a broom closet. Like the janitor would keep his equipment, and we had a stick figure pop up. And like he was kicked back in a chair, just playing away on looked like a guitar.
That's crazy.
Down by the women's locker room. That was pretty wild. And I think we got some stuff in the industrial arts shop. We had one little figure in there, and we had another, looked like a cat or something running around, like a small one, like climbing up on the lockers. And then we saw the same little like figure thing in the home ec where they used to, do the make cookies and all that.
Sure.
Teach you how to sew and all that. There was one running around the floor in there. And so, yeah, that was kind of cool. We did the first and only and last paranormal investigation at that high school, Monroe, Illinois, before it got tore down.
You guys were lucky you got in there. Yeah, before they tore it down.
My best stick figure was at the Mullins Limestone Mine it was over by London, Kentucky. And the way they mine the limestone, they go underground and they blast it. And then they'll leave columns, and that holds the roof up. And they haul the limestone out. And they also, that same areas where they dug out for the war, I think it's saltpeter or whatever they're digging to make the gunpowder with.
Okay.
Some ingredient for the gunpowder that they dig out of there, and it's real explosive. And we think they had an explosion there, and my guy Gary that hears stuff talking to him, he's a clairaudient. He was hearing Chinese miners talking to him.
Oh wow!
So I start. I don't know any Chinese, but I start joking around and going. I'm like whistling, and I'm like, I think that's a Chinese song. I don't know. I'm whistling, and next thing I know, this thing appeared. We're in a cave.
Yeah.
There's no light. You can't even see your hand. And this thing just appeared right in front of me, and it's sitting there with its legs crossed, like sitting like Indian style, and just hovering. is sitting there looking at me, and I'm like, I see you. And then he said, they said they're Chinese, and then we're joking around, and
Now, how did
the
you
next,
see him? Did you see him with your own eyes, or did you
no,
see him on
I didn't get
camera?
to see nothing. It was pitch black,
So you,
but I
you
see
see,
him on the SLS. He
oh,
showed up
seen
on
him
the
on the
depth
SLR.
camera
Okay,
and the,
okay.
yeah, and he just appeared right in front of me. And the other weird thing that happened is my tablet died. Well, the button's on the top. I'm holding it on the bottom, so something had to shut it off. I've had that happen a few times, and I've had
Yeah.
stuff swipe my screens, like your finger swiping.
Mm-hmm.
And this thing appeared, and the next thing I know, it kind of stretched out, and it splatted on the wall, and then it climbed up the wall and went up the ceiling and disappeared.
Wow.
And then I started whistling that song again, and it came back one more time. And there it was, just like looking at me, like hovering there, off, like 4 foot off the ground with his legs, like a Buddha looking thing, just crossed, and it took off again. And
That's pretty cool stuff, man.
Yeah, it's on our. We put that on our YouTube channel and on our Facebook page and stuff. We got any evidence we find. We don't know what it is, but if it's interesting, we'll put it up there. We like people to look at it and see what they think it is.
Yeah, no, that's very, very cool. Absolutely. Yeah, I'm dying to get into a mine. You know, I got a friend of mine who does one in New Jersey, but I'm working part-time right now as an armed security. And that seems like every time he's doing an event at his mine in Jersey, I'm working. So I can't seem to get there, you know. But I'm going to try to get there eventually. Yeah. So
if I go to Jersey, I'm bringing a UV light because I'll probably come back with a truckload of fluorescent minerals. I go in a mine out there.
Yeah. No, I mean, yeah, it's very, very cool. I know a lot of people that have been out there and done it, and they're like, Al, when are you going to come? I'm like, dude, every time he books it, I'm working. I just can't, or, you know, it's like something's going on, a family thing or something. Just can't get away, you know? So
I know the feeling.
It is what it is, you know? So, yeah, no, I'm dying to do a mine. I really do want to do a mine. Yeah.
I got a couple videos here I'm gonna throw up and
Okay.
see what you think.
Absolutely.
Hi guys, it's Dave from Spooky Haunts. The clip of video you're about to watch in the next few minutes happened last night whilst we were at the infamous chapel. I'll leave it up to you guys to like the video if you really like it. Please comment what your thoughts are. These cars worked on a motion activation, so basically you've got to be right above it, right close to the cars. If you're touching it, then it will drive off. Okay, it will stop when you take your hands away from it. Okay, that's something you need to remember. Watch the video. Please leave your comments in the comment section, like the video and share it with your friends. This is really great video footage of something we captured last night.
But Matt's going to be left on his own in a minute. You can play with him.
So she set the things off. Whoa! The car. Oh my god. Did you see that, guys?
All three fucking
I'm so sorry, chat. I was fucking mocking it.
Oh my god.
Oh, fucking
Oh my god.
Whoever, Kate, was that you?
You just want to be.
Yeah, there's no doubt in my mind that thing was legit. Yeah, that was a legit video.
I think the little car set the cat balls off, the vibration maybe from it. But the thing I didn't understand is he said you put your hand on the car to make it go, and you take your hand off the car to make it stop. But I'm like, how would a kid play with that? Would he have to put his finger on it and run across the floor with his hand on it the whole time?
Yeah, must be like one of those penny cars where you put the pennies in the back and
yeah,
something to that effect. But that thing took off like a rocket, you know.
Yeah. It did.
Oh, I believe the car definitely set off the cat balls for sure. But I mean, that thing took off like a rocket, and there was nobody next to it. It's not like somebody, unless it was remote controlled. You know what I mean? We're not seeing what's going on behind the camera, but
right.
Their reaction to me seemed very legitimate, you know? Yeah.
That's something I've noticed. If I have a cat ball or a K2 meter, if anybody's got a spirit box going or anything with a speaker, I always tell them don't set it on the same table with the cat ball or with the K2, because just the vibration from the speaker on the spirit box or just an external speaker, the vibration will set off. Because your K2s are seismic too. 'Cause they take all the shielding out of them. You can just tap them on the table, and they'll go off. And that's why they're so sensitive. They take the shielding out of them. Like you set an industrial EMF meter there, and it won't do anything. But you bang on the table, it don't do anything. But the K2 will go off. The cat ball will go off too. So that was one little tip I learned early on. Because I was sitting there one night, and the guy had a spirit box, and it was just, every time the radio station come through, all the K2s were going off at the same time. Looked like an equalizer going.
I noticed that if you have a walkie-talkie, it'll set a K2 off as well. We were doing the Estes experiment, but we weren't using a DVD setup. We were using the walkie-talkies to hear what the other people were to respond to what we were hearing or what I was hearing. But I also noticed that when we were doing the test with the walkie-talkies, because the other people were like 3 floors up, I was down on the first floor. I noticed that the walkie-talkie, every time I hit the walkie-talkie to talk, the K2 meter would go off. So I had to shut the K2 meter off altogether, for that experiment. But yeah, so walkie-talkies will set K2s off. So, always make sure.
Walkie-talkie set off K2s and REM pods, and then there's one location we went by the interstate highway, and the truckers coming by would come. Yep, they would have their CB radios and ham radios, and those would come through our spirit box. They would set up our REM pods. K2s were picking them up, and then somebody on Estes, if they're using wireless headphones, that'll pick that up. I got a buddy who plays a lot of video games. He'll get truckers coming through his headphones when he's playing like Call of Duty and stuff. So we know. And then I always tell everybody to put their phones in airplane mode too. If we're in a tight location where, like I was at a place and everybody's K2s were going off. All this equipment's going crazy. And we're in a real small, cramped space. I was like, is everybody in airplane mode? And this was like a public ghost tour type thing. And they're like, what? I'm like, can you guys turn your phones on airplane mode? And they're like, really? I'm like, yeah. So they shut all their phones in airplane mode and everything just stopped. Like, what did you do? I said, you guys were setting off your own equipment.
Yeah.
I had a guy he had one of those Apple watches, and he was holding it over his K2, and it was going off, and just stuff like that, I was watching some guys live, and I was moderating, and he's like, man, this K2's going crazy. I'm like, can you hold it in your other hand? He's like, why? I'm like, your Apple Watch. So he put it in his other hand and quit going off. I'm like, well, put that watch in the car. I got another one here. This one here has to do with animals.
Okay.
And I'm a firm believer animals can see things that we cannot.
Without a doubt, absolutely.
So it's 2:30 in the morning. I wake up and Luke is staring here in the corner. He's absolutely staring at a spirit. And you're going to see that spirit's ball of energy leave the spot where Luke is staring at. Man, I wish I could see what he saw. There was a spirit that Luke was just staring at 100%.
Interesting.
Yeah, no, I mean, I believe it 100% that animals can see stuff that we can't see. I've chased orbs out of houses that was doing the cleansing one time at a house, and the dog was going absolutely nuts and looking in the corner, and eventually it moved, and the dog was in the hallway looking up at the bedroom, and I was behind the dog taking photographs of the hallway when a ball of light came out of the wall, seeing me, and then made a beeline down the hallway. And here I am standing with my camera, my finger on the trigger, never pressed the button because my brain is telling me, reach out and touch the ball, see what it feels like, right? So I go to reach out and touch it, it takes up, and I chased it down the hall, through the kitchen and out the back door. I never got a picture of it, but that dog knew it was there the whole time, and that dog was just staring at it. And I got cats, and my cats are always looking behind me. They'll sit on a table, the coffee table, and look behind me, behind my chair, and I feel someone touch my head all the time. And every psychic that I know tells me my mother is my guardian angel. And when first of all, they say they think it's my grandmother, because my mother, when she passed, was like 92, you know, and so she was old. And when we buried her in her favorite teal dress. And I said to all my psychic friends, when they call me and they say, you know, your grandmother's behind you. I say, what is she wearing? They all say she's wearing a teal dress. I said, no, it's my mother. It's not my grandmother. But they all see, you know, and they all say she's with me. And
Wow.
the cats all knew her and they loved her. And the cats just sit on the coffee table and look at her for hours at a time.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I got a mirror that's a portal in my dining room. And I was doing a podcast like this one night with a friend of mine at Alabama, and they had never seen orbs, you know, except for in photographs. And hand to God, the orb comes out of the mirror, stops behind me, looks at her who's interviewing me, looks at her. She's like, her mouth comes open, and she's like, Al, you got an orb over your head, goes out the back window and leaves. We're still on the interview. About an hour later, comes back through the back window, stops again, looks at her again, and then goes into the mirror.
Wow.
And she's like, how do you sleep with that mirror in the house? And I was like, nothing dark ever comes out of it, you know? So, but it blew her mind. Yeah.
That's amazing that the dog was seeing it and you can physically see it. You know, like a lot of stuff I rule out as dust or dust bunnies. Like that one on that last video, there was nothing there, and it kind of materialized and then came straight at him. But a lot of stuff I rule out as dust, especially those bug-eyed security cameras. I've seen some of those, and it just looks like millions of orbs going everywhere. I'm like, it's dust. And I've had some houses that look really, really, really clean, the cleanest house you could ever be in, immaculate. And I'm like, it's dust. And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, it's micro dust. Like, well, I don't see any dust. I'm like, I don't see any dust either, but you got micro dust. So you get out a UV light and you start shining around with that UV light, and you shine on the walls and it'll be purple. It'll be like microscopic little particles. You can't see them.
No.
You hit them with that UV light, and then you can rub it on the wall and see it moving around. And then usually if it's a lady, that's the lady of the house. They're always like, I really thought I was doing a good job cleaning it. Like, you are. This is stuff you can't see. You know?
Yeah.
But those little fisheye cameras, those security cameras, it'll just be going crazy everywhere.
Yeah, it looks like snow. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, like I said, I there are orbs, really legitimate orbs, and then there's moisture and dust and all kinds of other things, like you said, the micro dust and stuff like that. But there are real. I was in my crawl space one day. It is the dustiest, dirtiest crawl space in the world, because I'm a big guy. I don't go in there except to put the Christmas stuff away, to take the Christmas stuff out, you know? And I was in there putting Christmas stuff away, and I seen my kids when they were young. And even I said it. My house is haunted. Okay, they think the room I'm in right now was their bedrooms. They put locks on the closets because they thought there was something coming out of the closets. I called the county police, the state police, one night because I heard music in my bedroom. It sounded like a heavy bass beat, Like, I thought the house across the street was having a house party. And I called the state police and I was like, listen, I got to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and go to work. You got to send somebody over here. Because if you don't send somebody over here, I'm going to kick that goddamn door in and blow that boombox up with my shotgun because I got to get some sleep. And the cop was like, calm down, we'll send somebody over. And then a half hour later, my doorbell is ringing. It's 2 o'clock in the morning, my doorbell's ringing. So I go to answer the door, and there's the state police. And they're like, which house are you talking about? And I go, that one right there. Because we just been there. The house is locked up. There's no lights on. It's pitch black. We called the owner's son. There's snowbirds. They're in Florida right now. There's nobody in that house. And I'm like, well, I heard a heavy bass music. He goes, well, must be coming from your walls because it's not coming from any. Because I knew my neighbors on either side of me were elderly people, you know, retired, and I knew they weren't playing any, you know, heavy bass music, you know. Yeah. And so I know my house is haunted. I live with that. You know, I've seen shadow figures and hat men and all kinds of stuff in my room, and when I can feel them come into the room. As soon as I feel them, I get up and I chase them out. But they're not coming through the mirror, though. You know what I mean? They're coming through the walls from outside. I usually have to sage the house and then cleanse the grounds as well to keep them out. But yeah, I mean, but there are balls of light, like that thing that came out of that wall and shot across the. Yeah. There's no doubt in my mind that was a spirit. That's what the dog was looking at, and the camera picked it up as an orb. But who knows what the dog's seen? Right. Dogs could have seen a person. They could have seen a creature. Who knows what the dog's seen? You know.
Your house, are you on limestone or near any kind of mineral springs or any kind of water source?
Yeah, we have natural springs in my backyard that are that's why the property is always wet. You know, we have natural springs coming down off. I have like 100 acres behind me that was all apple orchard at one time. And we have water runs down off the mountain. And then my neighbor's got a natural spring in his yard. So we got water. I'm surrounded by water. Across the street, I have 100 acres of wetlands. Oh, without a doubt, yeah. Wouldn't surprise me if there's some kind of quartz crystal vein running through the property as well, you know. But I don't know that for
you might be on a ley line or or maybe there was two elderly ladies I know in Springfield, Kentucky, and they're right there where it's near Perryville Battlefield, and where they lived, there was a road that the soldiers went back and forth up and down the road to go to the battlefield and back to get ammo and haul the people back and forth. It was like a troop road, and she said about once a month she'll be sitting there having coffee, and she'll see two soldiers go by her window. She sees them all the time, like it's no big deal. And I'd probably be like trying to get a picture of them, but she said, but what you have going on, they may just become passing through.
Or they may just be drawn to me. I don't know. You know what I mean?
Could be. My buddy Gary that hears them, they come to him. I think they know he can hear them.
Or one of my children. I don't know. I mean, I have so much weird stuff going on in my life between UFOs and over my house and Bigfoot in my backyard and Dogman underneath my front deck. I got all kinds of crap going on over here. You know. I do.
Like we need to come to your house.
Believe me, I do. I get everything you can, like those videos I sent you, the UFO. I caught off my front deck. You know what I mean?
I've got one
right off my front deck.
I've got a couple of those. I got one. I'll show you here in a little bit. I got this. This is your classic lady in white. Everybody's always seen a lady in a white dress, but this is one I'd never heard of. I think it's called Boger Hole, something like that. I'll roll this up, see what you think of this one.
White Lady of Boggart Hole Clough is said to appear sobbing in filthy white rags, haunting the dense woodlands of Manchester's Boggart Hole Clough. Locals whisper that those brave or foolish enough to follow her cries have vanished for days, only to return shattered, wide-eyed, unable to utter what they'd seen. But let's break this down. First, the Kloof is an eerie, isolated ravine. Echoes bounce, shadows distort. It's a playground for the mind. The White Lady archetype? Classic psychological projection. Combine folklore, fear, and the human brain's knack for filling in blanks under stress, and you've got yourself a textbook example of mass suggestion, sleep paralysis, or even psychogenic fugue. Missing for days? Likely lost, dehydrated, and hypothermic in a landscape where your mind can conjure horrors from rustling leaves. So ghost, or the power of folklore? You decide. But remember, our minds can be the cruelest tricksters. Like, share, and follow if you love having nightmares or debunking them.
I believe in the lady in white. I believe everything that guy said is true, absolutely, but that doesn't make seeing an apparition an optical illusion or a trick of the mind. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's
one man's opinion.
Yeah, I've heard other people seeing like they thought they saw a lady in a white dress, and it may just because of the shape and the if it's something that's self illuminating. But up in by Elizabethtown, we call it E-Town, Kentucky. There's a cemetery. The Bishop Long from Louisville is aptly named at Hell's Gate, and it's a really old cemetery. It's been vandalized. There's been some satanic worshiping going on out there, all kind of stupid stuff. And I've got a friend that lives up there, and he doesn't really claim to be psychic or anything, but he's had some weird stuff happen to him. He went over to Iraq, and he's seen the lady walk by. He pulled up there in his truck, and him and his wife, and he's seen her go by, and he went by about 3 or 4 months later. They just, for something to do, they'll go out there in the middle of the night, and riding around out the country. And he said he's seen her twice. And I've been up there probably 4 or 5 times. I've never seen or heard anything that I couldn't explain. But he's seen her a few times. But he told me when he was in Iraq that that part of the world's really old. Like there's stuff people been living over there for thousands of years. And he said you'd see stuff out in the middle of the night, walking out in the desert, and they'd all get their guns and load up and think it's somebody coming in, and it would just be like a spirit or something walking around. Like every now and then they hear something or screaming, or they think they see something. He said there's all kind of weird stuff running around out there. But he said the freakiest thing one night they were staying in this, I think it was a building or something, and they were all leaned up against a wall trying to sleep. And the guy next to him was like, "Hey, quit poking me," And he's like, "I'm not poking you." And they turn their lights on and look around, and there's nobody there. He's like, "Cut it out," So they go back to sleep. And then the guy at the end's like, "Hey, quit messing with my foot," And this went on all night. And they turn on the light, and there's nobody there. And it's like something kept messing with them all night. And then the next morning when they woke up, they didn't realize they were sleeping in one of those Saddam Hussein's torture chambers. That's where they spent the night, and they didn't know it. And but he said there's some really freaky stuff over there. He said, "I didn't believe in none of this till," he said, "I went over there." He said, "Now I firmly believe it. There's stuff, we can't explain it." And he said, "I've seen stuff walking around at night." He said, he said, "I thought I was going to get into a gunfight, and the thing just walked off and disappeared."
Yeah, absolutely. I've seen video from over there, from what do you call it? The gun sites and video, and where they thought there was people moving in on them at night on the lines, and then they'd get right up to where these guys were just about to open fire, and it would just disappear, just vanish, boom. They're like, okay, I guess they were ghosts because they didn't come any closer. But I mean, there's so much around us all the time that we can't see, that our brains can't comprehend all of the stuff that goes around. Like what we call paranormal is really not para at all. It's normal. It's just that we don't see it. We're not able to see it, but we are able to experience it at certain levels. And it's all around us all the time in different spectrums of light, in different dimensions, and sometimes things intermingle, dimensions cross, timelines cross, and you see stuff, or portals open up and stuff comes in. I mean, we were doing up here in New York, we got these things that are called the ancient stone chambers. They're these big stone chambers that nobody knows who made. And we were in one of them one time. I was talking to David Crabtree he's an electrical engineer at a seminar one time. I happened to be sitting at his table. And I said to him, how do you know when a portal opens up? He says the radiation goes through the roof. So we were in one of these stone chambers, which our psychic calls their portals to different dimensions. And we had a Geiger counter, and we did a Geiger counter reading, and it was nothing there. And then we started playing with frequencies, different frequencies, and all of a sudden the Geiger counter went to red, and all the colors on the thermal imager that were orange and yellow and stuff all turned purple and blue, and something came out of the portal behind me. I was filming my partner, he was filming me, and something came out of the portal behind me, stuck its head out, looked at me, and then went back into the portal. And my partner went nuts. And he says, dude, behind you, someone just popped out behind you. And I turned around, and there's nothing but giant stones, behind me. There's no way anybody could have got in behind me. And yet he's seen a figure pop and go like this and then pop back out, pop in and pop out. And it was crazy. But when you start playing with the frequencies and opening up doorways and stuff like that, anything can come through, So yeah, there's all kinds of stuff out there.
I was told that one of the best ways to find a portal is with a compass. Like your compass should always face north. And then you go around the house or property, whatever. And when you get to that area where it's supposed to be a portal, your compass will go off of north. And we had a lady, it was in Clarksville, Tennessee, and she was having a lot of activity and had us come down to her house. And she claimed to hear stuff, see stuff. But the freakiest thing she told me, she said, one night I woke up and there was like a light. I looked over on the wall and she said, I seen a circle of light with like another circle of light, like a circle inside a circle. She said, and I looked and it was like a movie playing. And she said, I saw these guys riding chariots, like horses and chariots, like in Roman times.
Yeah.
And she said, then it just disappeared. And I was like, you sure you weren't like smoking something and watching like Stargate SG-1 or something? And she was like, no, I seen this stuff. So we were getting a lot of really weird stuff in her house. And so I went through the house with a compass because I had a couple people on my team that are sensitive. They're like, we think there's a portal here. I'm like, okay. So I can sit there and hold dowsing rods all night long, and they don't move for me at all.
My dowsing rod. I love my dowsing rods.
And if they do, one will point at the other one, like a 90-degree, or it'll do one of these, or it'll go off somewhere, but I can't get them to do the yes, no.
Okay.
So we had a girl there that's really good with dowsing rods, and I had my compass. We went through this whole house. Nothing, my compass stayed due north everywhere. And I got in that lady's bedroom. I got by that one wall where she said she saw this thing. My compass went off at north. And I would go past it, and it would go back to north. And I'd go by that area, and it would go off of north again. And then I'd go past it, and it would go back to north again. So whatever that area she saw this thing, it was affecting my compass. And then the lady with the dowsing rods would go up there, and her dowsing rods were bouncing all over the place. So I always wanted to go back with a Geiger counter or something like that, but it was pretty weird.
Yeah, I like to go old school, new school. Whenever I go out, I will take like a 35 millimeter camera. I will take a Polaroid camera. I have compass. I have dowsing rods. I have quartz crystal pendulums, and then I got all the high end, high tech ITC stuff as well. Sometimes
we got a spinner and a jug I've made. It's like a willow leaf spinner like you use on a bass lure or something, and it's sealed inside a glass jug, and then it's got a cork, and it's all completely sealed, and then I got a copper coil, and then I've experimented with, I've used tritium balls, I've used crystals. The best thing that seemed to get more activity is I got a Tektite that I've been using. That's supposed to bring in universal energy.
Okay.
And I carried this thing around for, I know, a good 3 years now. It's only moved twice. And both of those investigations, the one was pretty active. We had a lady was getting messed with and getting touched, and we actually had to do a cleansing on that house. We did a cleansing, and Catholic bishop, he went in before us, and we went in later and did another cleansing, and everything's been quiet. But I first thought someone had a candle going or something, 'cause it looked like a light flickering, and I'm looking down, I'm like, what is that? I don't have a candle. And I always put a light next to my devices, even my homemade devices, so I can see anything on the camera, pick up the movement. I had a light there, and I'm looking, and the light's not blinking. And I looked real close, and that brass spinner was twitching inside that jug, and it was reflecting off that light on the floor. Made it look like a candle. I've got that video on I think it's on our YouTube and our Facebook. But that was one of those cases where we would not make anything public from that case. But she told me it was okay.
Oh
to
yeah,
show
well,
my-
yeah.
She's like, you
Absolutely.
can show your spinner jug because I know you want to show people. I'm like, yeah, I want to show people this thing finally moved after 2 years. But I've done a few cases like that where it was a real nasty case, and they want to keep everything private, which I don't blame them. If somebody tells me they don't want to put it out there, we won't.
No, absolutely
But,
not. Yeah, absolutely not. Well, I always change the name of the client or the location of the investigation when I write up a report, because I don't want anybody to know who I'm talking about or where it's actually I'm investigating. Just
Right.
for
You
them.
don't want people out there bothering people.
No, I want those people to just go on anonymously and no one bothering them and not knowing anything about it, you know. And lately, you know what I've been doing? I went to again, I was out at a stone chamber one day, and I was doing a lot of old school stuff, dowsing rods, compasses, and the quartz crystal pendulums, and during the day. But when I was doing the investigation during the day, I was given verbal commands. Okay. We went back at night just to see how the energy changed at night. And at night, what I did was I took my tripod that I had the camera on, took the camera off the tripod, I put the camera inside the stone chamber, and I hung the quartz crystal pendulum in there. And I asked the same commands I asked during the day, but I asked them telepathically, and the damn thing did everything I asked it to do.
Wow.
And that blew my mind, because I don't know how the thought just came to me, because I've been here so many times and I've never did this experiment telepathically, you know. And that night I did, and I got it on video somewhere. And I was like a kid, a little kid in a candy shop. I couldn't believe it. You know, spin clockwise, spin counterclockwise, swing left and east and west, north and south, and everything telepathically. What was ever in that chamber could hear my thoughts and did everything I asked it to do.
That's pretty wild. I've got a lady who does pendulum work, but she usually asks a question and it's going yes, no, whatever.
Right.
That kind of thing. But I have found with me in particular, somebody will have something like that going on. It'll be moving, or some of our equipment will be going off. And I've been to a couple places where they were live, and I'm watching it on the way there in the car, and they're getting all kind of action. And then it's the opposite for me. Like, I'll walk in and everything just stops. And then I'm like, well, let me go leave the room. And I'll leave the room and it'll start going off again. I don't know what it is, but like, we were at an investigation here about a month ago, and I had a REM pod going off, and then my clairaudient Gary was standing behind me, and something grabbed his hand. He said something's touching him. He didn't like it. He's like, telling it to get away from him. And I had a lady that's a sensitive lady, was on the necrophonics doing a Estes, so she can only hear what's coming through that headphone. She can't hear any of the questions or anything that's going on. So all this is happening. REM pod's going off. I take about one step toward it, and it just stopped. And she said, "Oh, she goes, they don't like you." And they said they're messing with you. And about that time she left, and then she walked back in, and she goes, "I'm back." And the other ladies in the other room couldn't hear her, didn't know anything. She said, "I'm back," and the other lady goes, "The bitch is back." and then And then she goes, "Did you hear that?" I'm like, "Yeah, I heard that." And so then she left, and she came back again. And she's like, "I'm here." And then the other lady in the other room goes, "Bitch." I'm like, whatever it was. She goes, "They don't like me here. They do not like me." And she goes, "They're messing with you because as soon as you took 2 steps toward that equipment, it just stopped." And then I did have the LiDAR going there, and we went in this little bathroom. This is in an older abandoned house. There are 2 elderly folks that passed away there, but what we think was going on was something else that was in that house. And I got in the bathroom, and there was like a mask came at me on the LiDAR. I didn't see or hear anything, but it came on the LiDAR, and I was trying to record, and it was gone. And then I went in the living room where we had the other lady was on the headphones. She couldn't hear anything we were saying, or she didn't see what I saw on the LiDAR. I seen a couch and like a chair and a couch, and it looked like something popped its head up over the couch. And it would pop back down like it was playing peekaboo with me. And so I went ahead and paid the extra $5. Now I can record on my LiDAR. I had the introductory LiDAR. So, but that was pretty wild.
Yeah, that was very, very cool.
Where are these stone chambers at? That sounds like something we need to come check out.
They're in Putnam County, New York. Most of them are in Putnam County, New York. Yeah, they're amazing. I've noticed that there's a couple of them on one particular road that line up with a Catholic monastery, and it also lines up with a Buddhist temple.
Wow.
And I said to myself, there's a reason why there's a Buddhist temple, a Catholic monastery, and a stone chamber all on the same line. And I'm like, I don't care what anybody says. There's either a ley line running across here or something, because all 3 of them picked this side of the road, and they're on a mountain. They come down off a mountain, and they all line up perfectly. And I'm like, this is not a coincidence that the Buddhists and the Catholics picked this side of the road as well, you know? And the woods up there are crazy haunted. I've seen UFOs up there. I've seen Bigfoot up there. I've seen Dogman up there. So there's just a ton of stuff going on at this location. But one of the stone chambers has got like a dark vibe to it. And when we went there, originally when we went there we were going there with the team, and the psychic called me, and she said, one of your team members can't go. And I said, well, who is it? She said, I don't know, but he's a tall guy, you know. And we had one guy on the team who was really tall. And I said, why can't he go? And she says, he's got subconscious fear, and there's going to be something dark there. And I said, well, can't he just come and hang out in the woods and take pictures of it from a distance? And she said, no, because what's ever there is not attached to the chamber. It's attached to the land, and it can come out of that chamber and go anywhere. And when we went to the chamber, actually there was 2 one on one side of the road and one on the other. When we went to the first one, my brother said to me at the time, he said, bring your night vision goggles. And I said, why? I'm going during the day. He said, just bring them just to see what you could see. So I brought them. So as we were leaving, I forgot I had the night vision goggles in my bag. I pulled them out. And when I pulled them out, across the back of the wall, the stone chamber, were things that looked like Viking runes. And when we looked them up, there were hieroglyphics in Egyptian, Native American, Viking runes, and Chinese. But it was all like, I don't know what it said, because it didn't make any sense. Like when you figured it out what each thing was, what letter, it didn't make any sense. But it was all of these different cultures that were on the back of this. And then when we went to so I had to tell one of my guys he couldn't come. He wasn't happy about it, but I said, listen, we're going to some place that's going to have dark energy, and it'll attach to you. I'm not going to be responsible for you going home with something dark. You have to, you know, if the psychic says you can't come, you can't come. And when we went to that stone chamber, and it was a weird chamber, had a weird vibe to it and everything. Most of the chambers have like 5 or 6 foot doorways. This thing had like a 3 foot doorway, like for midgets. It was weird. And
Really
it
short.
wasn't squared off. The roof wasn't squared off like the rest of them. It was almost domish. And when we were in there, it had a weird vibe. Everybody said it had a weird vibe. And I'm looking around and I break out the night vision goggles. And there on one of the stones was the image of the devil himself. Like it was chiseled into the stone.
Oh, wow.
But you couldn't see it. You could only see it through the night vision goggles. You couldn't see it. We tried to put lights on it and take pictures of it and take pictures of the night vision goggles through the night vision goggles. But it was first generation goggles. You know, nothing came out. We never got a photograph of it. I mean, the stuff we have now is so much better.
Go back with either a full spectrum camera or an UV light, because your IR on that night vision was what was illuminating it. Because like I work in automotive, and we've got an adhesive that we put inside a lot of your modern cars. People don't realize back in the day, all your cars were steel and welded together with welding. Now they also have, the cars are still welded together, but they have adhesive that goes in there to supplement the welding that helps structurally hold the car together. So like if you get in a wreck, back in the day, the welds would just pop. They'd just be like pop, pop, pop. Now you have this glue. So the car tearing apart I call it like crash glue. So the car now, when it tears apart, the welds don't just pop. It has to rip that glue apart too. So it's like when you got two pieces of wood or something glued together, and you're trying to pull them apart. It's a lot harder to pull apart than if you just had a nail in it, you know. So that particular adhesive, they put a UV agent in it. And you can only see it with an IR, like a night vision camera. You can't see it with a regular camera; it won't show up. So, but what you were seeing may be IR sensitive, and so that being said, I've been on a couple locations where we had cicada bugs hatching out, and the cicada bugs, the shells, after they hatched, the shells would show up on my night vision camera. They would just
Really?
Yeah. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, no, I mean, that was early on. We didn't have the equipment. I didn't have the equipment that I have now. Now I have like 400 duffel bags of stuff I don't even use anymore. But I mean, I get so much equipment now. But now I got the full spectrum and the IR and the thermal, and I got a night vision goggles that does it does everything. It's just amazing stuff. And I mean, yeah, now we could go into that chamber if we had a UV flashlight and hit it, and it'll light right up. Absolutely, yeah.
You might try your SLS in there too, because I had we were in this older house. We went there one last time. It's an old mansion, and it's abandoned, and the roof's going, and the whole building started. This is our last trip up there. It's about to cave in. It's not safe to go there anymore, but
yeah,
a lot of graffiti. It was spray painted stuff everywhere, and my SLS camera won't pick up none of that graffiti. I mean, the video part of it will, but my depth camera doesn't pick up any of it. It just looks like a flat wall.
Uh-huh.
I got one room, and there was a symbol showed up on that SLS camera. It was seeing whatever it was under the paint, and it was on the wall. Somebody had put something on there that depth camera could pick up, and it was a sigil. Went back and tried to figure out which one. There's like so many sigils out there, but a lot of people don't realize the sigils, like each demon or each demonic symbol or whatever they have a symbol that represents that particular entity.
Right.
And we found 2 or 3 different sigils in that house, but this particular one almost looked like some kind of weird bullseye. And I'm like, what is that? Because it's showing up on the SLS depth camera, but the lasers were picking it up, but you couldn't. And it was like a thermal reaction or whatever, but you couldn't see it on the regular camera. So I'm wondering if you go back to that chamber with an SLS or even an XLS system, and I'd probably go back with everything, UV, and everything else.
Yeah, I'm that guy who takes everything because I don't want to need it and not have it. But half of the time I don't use half of the stuff. I try, like I said, I try to incorporate old school, new school, whatever, and I try to do day, night, wherever I go, just to see the difference of the energy, how the energy's changed at night and stuff. And so, it is what it is. But sometimes you'll get caught up in something and you won't use certain equipment because you're having so much success with one thing that you don't even want to bother with anything else at that point, So
I kind of go case by case, see,
yeah,
kind
yeah,
of feel it out,
exactly.
see what we need in this one. I have a lot of stuff too. We don't always use everything. I've even got some ultrasonic sound equipment that I haven't necessarily used
Yeah,
yet.
I do a lot of things with frequency and vibration and stuff now, and other things as well. I like to incorporate it to my investigations. That just seems like everything you incorporate into an investigation will change the energy a certain way. Some things will change it. Will change one thing where a different say different frequency will change something else, and then if you add in like fragrances, believe it or not, different fragrances will change energy as well, and just all kinds of stuff I'm playing with now. It's just like it's ridiculous. Yeah.
Are you doing some kind of frequency generation, or do you have like vibration equipment that can record FFTs and spectrum analyze frequencies?
I don't have a spectrum analyzer, but I play with different frequencies, a lot of different frequencies, and I record them, and then I record how those frequencies are changing the the readings, the meter readings, and everything else that I'm working with. Yeah, I'm doing a lot of.
Is it like a frequency generator you're using?
No, it's not a generator. Yeah, I guess it is a frequency generator. It's it can generate all kinds of frequencies. Yeah, so I guess it is a frequency generator to a certain extent, but I don't believe it's called a frequency generator. It's got some other name to it, but
I'd be curious to check that out. I used to do a lot of vibration testing back in the day with I go out and we would do balancing and then vibration testing, and you could hook up your piezometers, and it's basically to checking displacement like inches per second or acceleration in G's or spike energies, and then you go out and test a piece of equipment. You could tell if it was out of balance, if it was loose, if it was a coupling misalignment. You could tell if it was the bearings. If it was the bearings were going bad, you could put in the whatever Timken bearing it was, and it would tell you the ball spin frequency on how many balls or rollers with that bearing, and then all that would come back. And so we used to do what they called a bump test. So basically, if a piece of machinery, the structural integrity of that machine is any harmonic of the rotational speed or RPM of that equipment, it can have what they it'll modify and amplify, and you'll get this effect. So basically, it's a harmonic effect. So the easiest way to explain it is if you crawl under a big truck or car, you see the exhaust system, or it'll have a weight hanging off of it. Or if you get under your hood of your car, sometimes the intake will have this big plastic looking like a little can off the intake. And that whole premise is to change the frequency. So some cars, like say it's a big, like a box truck or a limousine or something has like a 40-foot long exhaust pipe, they'll hang a weight. The only way to change frequency is by change the speed of it or the mass, change the speed or dampen it. So on your car, it's constantly speeding up, slowing down. So to change that vibration, is you add a weight to it. You change the mass. And if you notice, a lot of your exhaust hangers on your car have a little rubber grommet that they hang from. That's dampening the vibration too, so you don't feel that up through the floor of the car.
Right.
Well, I've tested machines where the thing's running at 3,600 RPM and the base. So you hook your probe up to the base or magnetic probe or your handheld probe, and then you put it on record. You're recording the frequency, and you hit it with a rubber mallet. It's called a bump test, and then that frequency will come across, and then you record that frequency. So if that I-beam that is bolted to, the structural frequency is like 1,800, and it's running at 3,600, that's a multiple of the RPM of the structure. It'll shake itself to pieces.
Sure,
so
absolutely.
So the only way to fix that is to add rubber isolator pads, dampen it, or change the mass, which you'd add a weight to it, or weld on a weight, or change the weight of the equipment, or change the speed of that equipment. Like if you get in your car, sometimes you get to a certain speed and she's kind of vibrating a little bit, and you speed up or slow down, and it quits. But that one little speed, that sweet spot, it'll vibrate. It's like usually a bent wheel or got a wheel out of balance or something.
Yeah, sure.
Same kind of thing. So my theory is when you go to these locations, like a house, building, you go to an old house, say it's 100 years old, and that structure, that wood, the frequency of that wood is never going to change over 100 years unless you change the mass or you dampen it. So if you hit that wall in 1809 with a hammer, and you come in 2025 and you hit that same wall with a hammer, if you didn't change anything in the structure of that house, it's going to come off the same frequency. So that's why I'm always wondering, like when you you see the people go knocking on a house, and something knocks back. Well, kind of like your portal, where there was some guys in Oklahoma went in. I think it was Oklahoma. They went into this building, and they were doing like an EVP session, and they're like, "Can you see us?" And they're like, "No, can you see us?" And they were like, "What are you doing? Like, what are you doing?" They're like asking questions, and it was like an investigative team on the other end was asking them questions. And they're like, "What year is it where you're at?" And they're like, 2036.
Oh,
Talking
no.
to something in the future.
That's wild.
So I'm not so sure that paranormal even goes forward and backward in time. Some of the stuff we're encountering could be in our future. And I had another case where Vinny was talking about where these guys went into this old house, they opened the door, and they seen two guys run out the back door. 10 years later, they're in the same house. And they seen something coming in the front door, and they run out the back. They think they were seeing themselves possibly in the future.
That's pretty wild stuff,
These
man.
whole portals and frequencies. So, yeah, then there's another guy in, I think where he's at. I think he's Arizona. He does the Staticom. Tony Rathman. I don't know if
Oh, yeah, Tony. I know Tony, sure. I was on his show, yeah.
it's so fascinating to me. I'm like, I want to build one of these. He's like, well, you got to call this guy, and you got to have a white noise generator, and you got to do this and that. I'm still trying to get a hold of the first guy, and I'm like, okay, how do I build this thing? Because it was fascinating to me how it worked, and on white noise, and so you can't hack it. There's no radio frequencies. Everything's on white noise, and he's supposed to set up later this year. He's going to set up geographically in the center between Blind Frog Ranch and Skinwalker Ranch. He's going to be right in the middle and see what he can get come through. And I didn't know they were close to each other. I've seen both of those programs on TV, and I've got theories about what the Skinwalker, what I think it could be, but ranch. But I really want to see that he sets that thing up.
Yeah, I've been with his partner when he used to do a show with his partner, Ron Iacovetti. And I've been with Ron a couple of times, investigated with Ron a whole bunch of times, actually. And every time I'm with Ron, my name comes through that static thing, whatever it is that he's using, whatever he calls it. I forgot what he calls it, you know?
The Staticom.
Yeah, my name comes through all the time. And it doesn't come. We were at a place called, we were investigating called the Museum Village. And it had 20, 30 different stores. It was like a museum, like a cowboy town, all museum stuff. And he had moved to Static Clown. He started in the general store. Then we went to the church. And from the church, we went into like town hall. And sometimes I was with him and sometimes I wasn't, but my name came through everywhere he went. My name came through. And then when I would get back to him at the end of the night, he'd say, Al, your name came through at such and such a time. You know, where were you? And I was like, oh, I was like, 3 houses over or something, Pretty wild stuff. I think we should get going because I got to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning. So, if you want to start touching on my stuff.
Yeah, I had a couple I was getting ready to go to the UFOs. I got a couple UFO things and a Bigfoot thing. And I'm just going to play one of each. We'll skip over a couple of these so we can get through your stuff.
Well, we don't have to get through my stuff. We could go through your stuff. I don't care. But I'm just saying that I'm going to have to get going like in another half hour or so because I got to get up at 4.
I know the feeling. We'll do a couple things, then we'll jump into your stuff.
Yeah, like I said, it doesn't matter if we do my stuff or not. It doesn't matter.
Well, it matters to us.
I'm just saying.
You're our guest, so we want to see.
If you got stuff you want to get through, let's do it.
All right, I got a couple little things here.
Awareness is awakening within the masses on this planet. When you are aware, you can tune into the different frequencies, remember who you are, and change the vibratory rate of this universe, and create a massive healing of consciousness on many levels. You are magnificent beings. You all need one another. It is imperative that you work in harmony. Harmony is required. To all of you who recognize the light source that moves you to follow the silent whispers that echo down the golden spirals through the corridors of your own being, we honor you. We recognize you. We are all here as the family of light.
Oh!
Yeah, I'm calling bullshit on that one. Yeah, no, that was
First time I watched it, I didn't even know it had that lady talking. I was just watching it in silence, and I didn't know that lady was talking. I just thought it was neat because it was a classic triangle shape, and it took off.
Yeah, no, that one does not ring true to me at all whatsoever.
This one here, I think this one's AI. If this is a real video, I'm gonna shit and fall back in it. If this is a real video, this next one.
I'm calling bullshit on that one too.
That's what I said too.
Yeah, I'm calling bullshit on that one too. That one was worse than the first one.
I think this is like a government thing. This next one.
We have extraterrestrial technology over there that we have received from 2 separate sources. Some of the hardware was retrieved as a result of several crashes that have taken place. I mean, we know about the crash at Roswell. Don't doubt for a moment that happened. That's all true. That took place. There was a crash at Kingman. There was a crash at Aztec. There have been crashes all over the United States. There were crashes right outside of LA. There was a crash in Washington State some years ago. A couple of crashes in Mexico that we retrieved the hardware. Not only did we retrieve the hardware, but we retrieved bodies. Some dead, some alive. Some of the alive bodies we kept alive for quite a while. Rumor has it that at least one of them is still alive. Well, that's one story. The other story is there are 25 or 30 of those little guys over there at Groom Lake at about 20 levels down at S4 that are working with us, that gave us hardware. And we are not only putting bits and pieces together, but we are flying the aircraft and we are flying prototypes.
Well, I'm going to say this rings true only because I have a friend who works at NASA who told me off the record that there are off-worlders at NASA working with us.
Wow.
Yeah. So I believe that one.
Yeah, I've heard that too. Like it, also at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, they have bodies and whatnot. And then there's that one famous story where President Nixon had Jackie Gleason with him in Florida. They showed up in the Lincoln, driving a Lincoln. He's like, "What is the president doing driving a car?" And they took him in to see the bodies, in the freezers.
Yep. Yeah, no, I believe that absolutely. And I have a friend of mine who's in charge of the Space Force. His office is inside Cheyenne Mountain in Colorado, and he's told me some stuff. So yeah, I mean, mind-boggling stuff. Yeah.
I'm gonna throw up a picture. This is one that a picture you sent me of a UFO, and I'm gonna show one of my videos right after that. That I think I've seen two things this year that look kind of like this, and I don't know what it is. It didn't appear to be a satellite. The way the light is, and the way it changes. That's the picture you sent me.
Yeah, it's
right?
like still shot. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like it's lighting up. That it's kind of got some weird stuff going around it. And the ones that I saw look very similar to that. Let's see if I can find my video. I'm gonna throw this up here. This came over the house one night. I'm like, this is just weird. It was going in it was flying like a satellite, but it just seemed different to me because I've seen the ISS go over and I've seen satellites go over, and this thing just seemed different. Like you get an iridium flare is one thing. But this thing was constantly like something was changing colors and shining off of it.
This looks like my UFO. You sure this one's not mine?
Looks like the one I saw.
Yeah, I mean, that was over my house. Yeah, absolutely.
Let me see. Maybe I got it labeled wrong.
It's the ISS coming over. It could be the ISS. I don't know if this thing will zoom in. Can't tell what it is, but it's moving pretty good. Can't tell what it is, man. It's hauling ass. It's almost going by the house. It's definitely an unidentified flying object, whatever it is. It's getting like an iridium flare off of it. I think it could be the ISS. Try to zoom in on it one more time. I definitely do not have the right equipment. And it's gone. If I could turn around and try to keep seeing it. Oh, went in back behind a cloud. It's still going. I don't know. It didn't look solid. It looked kind of like some kind of ball. Let's see if it comes out of this cloud. There it is. It's out of the other side of the cloud. I'm gonna try to zoom in on it. Ah, dang it. I don't know what that is. It's still going. It's going behind the house.
It could have been that Russian satellite getting ready to come down or something.
Yeah, that's definitely not the ISS for sure. That's not the ISS. Absolutely not. Yeah. I don't know. I don't think it's a Russian satellite. I think it's exactly what you said it was. I think it's a UFO, obviously. That's my personal opinion.
That's what I thought too.
That's the
it's
vibe.
Definitely not identified. It's not a helicopter.
No, like when I see shit in the sky, I've been seeing UFOs all my life, okay? And I've seen every kind of craft you could imagine, up close and personal. when I see stuff in the sky, I don't really pay attention to it unless the little voice in the back of my head says pay attention to it, and then I pay attention to it. And that to me is not a satellite. That is
I didn't
not
think
the
it was
ISS.
either. I was like, what the hell?
Absolutely. That is, if that's not a UFO, then it's some top secret craft that the U.S. is flying. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Here's a pic. There's a picture of you going out and doing one of your investigations there. Then I got pulled this up. This is your the paranormal
page,
society that you founded at the Bronxville. That's pretty cool. I've been to the Bronx, but that's probably not what you're talking about. You're
No,
talking about Bronxville.
Bronxville is a small little rich town in Westchester County that I used to work at. And I used to get, because I was a mailman, I used to have everything come, like I had a P.O. box there, but it wasn't official. I wasn't paying for it because I worked there, you know? So I would just have everybody send stuff to me at that address. And
There you go.
I would get everything come. So, yeah.
Got a couple footprints here that you cast.
Oh, wow.
Pretty nice one there.
That one and that footprint, the story behind that footprint is I was out with another Bigfoot group. We were in their location. They took me out to their location, and we were going across a bridle path over our stream to go to a different side of the woods when I felt like I was being pulled away from the bridle path. There was like a little railing there, you know? And I said, well, I'm being pulled this way. And the people I worked with like, no, there's nothing that way. And I'm like, yeah, I'm telling you, I'm being pulled this way. And when I jumped over the railing, there was a 17-inch footprint there. And they casted it for me as, you know, gift for me because I found it, you know? And it was weird too, because when I was in the woods that day with them, I walked off to a spot in the middle of the woods and I turned to the people I was with and I was like, what happened here? And they looked at me and they were like, their jaws dropped. And they're like, what made you go there? And I said, I don't know. The energy brought me here. What happened there? And then they go, come back. They had a tablet with them. They go, come back to us. Because I was like 100 yards away from them. And they said, come back to us and we'll show you. And on their tablet, they were in the woods watching, and they got a picture of an alien.
Oh, wow.
And the alien was standing right at that spot that I had found. And she was like, they were like, how did you go to that spot? All these woods, thousands of acres of woods, you went right to that spot. So the energy brought me there. And it was like, yeah, we took a picture of an alien. And I was like, wow, that's crazy.
I'd like to see the alien. That'd be cool. We got a lady on our team. She claims she's communicating with them.
Awesome.
It gets pretty wild. Some of the stuff she's telling us.
Yeah, no, stuff gets wild. Yeah, that's the cast again. It's just the other side of it. Yeah.
Now, how much plaster would you use for a print that big? Because like I went out and I didn't know. I had like 2 big boxes, like 6 pound. I had 12 pounds of plaster and 2 gallons of water with me. I'm like.
Yeah, I don't use plaster, to be honest with you. They casted the prints for me. So I don't use plaster. I use a quick drying epoxy that's made for like pipe steam, like furnace epoxy. It dries in like 20 minutes and it's stronger than plaster. And what I also do is I'll lay down some, shish kebab sticks.
Yeah.
I'll put them inside the print, and then I'll put this epoxy over it, and I only have to wait like 20 minutes, and then the stuff is, and the epoxy, I take a little 5-pound box with me. I mean, and it works great, and it's light as a feather.
That's what I need.
It's light as a feather. Yeah. You know what? I'll take a picture of the box. I'll send it to you.
Yeah, because the plaster will break too.
Plastic cracks. The older it gets, the weaker it gets. And the people who casted that for me, they have a ton of prints, and most of them are broken in half because they're not very good at casting prints, and they don't use anything to reinforce it to strengthen it. But that was a gift to me. Like, they were doing a seminar, and I went up to visit them. And at the end of the night, they said, "We got something for you." And I was like, "Oh, wow." It's just so they said, "Yeah, we went back to that location and we casted it for you." And I was like, "Holy crap, thank you very much." I only seen one perfect print, and it was underwater, so I couldn't cast it. But I found some other stuff that dries underwater. But it's really, really expensive, and it gets hard like in 20 seconds. So you have to work quick with it, but it's really, really expensive. I don't use it that often. I use the quick drying stuff for the furnace pipes.
I was
most
wondering if you
of
could
the time.
put something around the print and make like a dam and get the water to drain out around it. Do it, but
It was about 3 foot. I would say
wow.
it was 3 foot off the shore in the lake.
Wow.
Yeah, there was no way I was damming that off. But if I would have had this other stuff with me, I could have poured it. It would have sunk right to the bottom of the lake. It would have went right into that print. And in 20 minutes, I could have pulled it out. It would have been a perfect
That would have been
test.
awesome.
Yeah. But, live and learn. At the time, I didn't know about the other stuff. And when I did find out about it, I found out that, yeah, I can get it, but it's really, really expensive. So
I got a couple of your videos here, and then we'll shut her down after that. Let's see if I'll let you talk to these. I'm gonna play a couple of these little clips you sent me.
Got a helicopter flying around us, but we can't see it. But we can hear it. Don't know where it is. Sounds like it's coming back. Now it's circling us. Maybe it's going away now. I just wanted to get that for you guys because we heard that the last time.
yeah, that happened up at one of my Bigfoot locations. It's called the Sacred Site. Now, the last 3 times I've been there with my cousin Sean, a helicopter has come in. It's come in twice, both times, once during the day and once at night. And it's invisible. You can feel the percussion of the blades. You can see the leaves kicking up, but
Wow.
you can't see the helicopter. And when it came back at night. Now, I'm thinking that maybe the government has got this location loaded with sensors, and they know when people are there now. Because I've been going there for 10 years. I've never had this happen to me. But the last 3 times the helicopter has come out. And when it came out, the first 2 times I didn't record it. But that time I said, I've been talking about this invisible helicopter. Let me film it. But one of the times it came back at night, again, we couldn't see it. 3 different kinds of lights I got. Even it didn't show up on thermal either, And I'm filming thermal, full spectrum, and IR, and there's nothing there. So I said, you know what? I'm going to find what this thing is. And I pulled out my laser pointer, and I started going across the sky. I figured at some point it would hit the craft and it would stop. The thing went to infinity. Wherever this thing was in the sky, I wasn't hitting it, or it was in a different dimension. I don't know, but we felt it.
Wild.
We felt the percussion of the blades. We could feel the leaves moving, but I've heard of helicopters that you can see, but you can't hear. I never heard them the other way around.
Yeah.
But that day I said, you know what, Sean, it's back. I'm going to film it, and I filmed it. And you can see it was a beautiful blue sky, but it was nowhere to be seen.
That one helicopter hit that airplane in Washington. Maybe something like that was going on. They couldn't see it.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think they were in the wrong place at the wrong times.
Yeah, they were definitely in the wrong place at the wrong time.
This one, I'm not sure what's going on here. We'll see.
refilming again. We're hearing all these coyotes starting to howl, get loud. Fucking A. Holy shit. I wish I would have got that very first one. That first one didn't sound like a coyote. That first one didn't. No, it was big. It was way bigger. Yeah. Way bigger. Almost sounded like a wolf. Yeah, it was big. It was huge, that first one. Way bigger. And clip it.
Okay, so at that location, that the sacred site is on a high plateau off the Appalachian Trail, about a mile up the mountain. And below us, maybe a mile to our east, is a dogman's den I found. Now, I haven't thought about dogman's den since the dogman came to my house. But the night we were going, that day when we were going up the mountain towards the sacred site, I thought in my head, I had a thought, and I said, I wonder if the dogman is still in that particular den, if they're still using that den. And then when we got to the top of the ridge, we had just dropped our backpacks. As soon as we dropped our backpacks, if you listen closely, as soon as he turns his recorder, we had to use our phones because all the stuff was still in the backpack. And I used my cousin's recording because he was a little bit quicker than me. Soon as he turns his recorder on, you hear the tail end of the dogman going down. Then the coyotes go crazy, and then the coyotes simmer down, and then the second time the coyotes go off again. In between the coyotes and the second time, the dogman goes off again in there with them. I couldn't hear it too well on here, but when you listen to it by itself, the audio is pretty loud, pretty clear, you know. So you have to listen carefully, but there's a dogman in there, and I think that dogman went off because he heard my thoughts.
What do you think a dogman is exactly? We've got a lot of theories what we think it might be.
Every world-renowned psychic that I've ever had the opportunity to talk to at symposiums, when I've been sat at their table with them, I always ask only the world-renowned psychics. I say, I got one question for you. What do you think a dogman is? And they all say the same thing to me. It's an interdimensional creature. That's what they tell me. And it doesn't matter if it's a female or a male or who it is. They all say the same thing. So I gotta lean with them. I gotta go with them. I think it's interdimensional. But that particular day, now I've been up to that site 100 times since the last time the dogman's been here. And the thought has never crossed my mind. You know what I mean? Because I leave them alone. They're on the east side of the woods. I stick to the west side where the Sasquatch are. But for some reason that day, I had that thought come into my head. I wonder if they're still here, if they're still using that den. And then that particular night, when we left, we had just come down off the high ridge, and we got down to the Appalachian Trail that runs along a 52-acre lake. And the dogman came on the Sasquatch side of the lake, and he screamed at us. And I was in front of my cousin, and the scream went through my cousin and right through me. And when I turned around, my cousin was eyes were big as saucers. He was like, Dogman? I go, yeah, Dogman. And we turned around because he was only 100 feet behind us, you know? And we turned around with our headlamps. We had very powerful headlamps. And we turned around to see if he was standing there. I thought he was going to still be standing there, but he wasn't. He must have. Here in the Northeast, we have a lot of stone walls that run across the woods, east and west, the north and south. And he must have jumped down behind one of the stone walls or jumped on the side of the cliff that comes down along the lake, because we looked with our headlamps. We lit that area up, and he wasn't there, but he was there the second before when he screamed at us. And I told my cousin that night, now I don't normally do this because we're 4.5 miles in the woods. And I carry a 60-pound backpack because I'm a lunatic. I got to have everything with me, right? Normally, I'm 62 years old. Normally, when we hike out, we stop at least twice for water and to catch my breath. I told my cousin that night, we're marching out of here and we're not stopping until we get to the car, because I didn't want that thing to fly, because there's only one way in and one way out. And I didn't want to have to fight them out. All we had us were 18-inch machete and 10-inch survival knives and bear spray. And I didn't want us to get into a life or death battle with a dog man to get out of there, you know. But he screamed. I truly believe he was screaming at me, like, what are you doing back here? Even though I wasn't on his side of the lake. And honestly, the thought came to my mind is like, oh God, don't let him come back to the house. You know what I mean? Because I had experienced him here twice already. I definitely did not want to experience him again here.
I don't know if you know Martin Groves. I was talking to him. He's the one that had all the experiences at Land Between the Lakes with the dog man. And he said the same thing. He believes it's interdimensional because he said it was running along and like its legs went invisible. And then he's seen it like go into like this circle and just disappear. And so I think we lost Al. But anyway, he thinks it's interdimensional too. I got a little quick video of his stone wall.
Okay, this is Sean, and this is the northern wall. I believe this is where that creature jumped over the wall that night. We seen it the last time we were here, because you can see the wall is up on his side and the wall is up by Sean, but right in the center where that thing jumped over, and it sounded like a bulldozer going through the woods. I think he knocked these stones over, because there are no down trees here that would have taken any of these walls down, except for this little stick right here, and that's not gonna.
Pretty interesting video. I think we lost Al. Anyway, Al's a pretty interesting character. Want to give a couple shout outs tonight. Cindy Sadler, she had a couple comments. She went to Stonewall Jackson's death site, smelled like death, so she's experienced some of those phantom smells. I want to give another shout out to all the families that have been impacted by the tornadoes over in London, Somerset. I've got some friends that live over that way. It's pretty bad, so our prayers go out to them. Also got a cousin, his mother-in-law had passed away this weekend, lost her battle with cancer. Cancer, it's just a bad thing all the way around. I wish we could figure out ways of dealing with it better. But I just want to let everybody know our prayers are going out to them. Appreciate everybody tuning in. And that's going to be the end of our show for this Sunday. So, y'all come back and see us again. Come on.